Meanwhile, the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning has announced 5 areas of priority focus based on the federal government's strategic plans to revamp Nigeria's ailing economy and achieve inclusive growth. And Managing Director, AFRINVEST Securities, Ayodeji Eboh, joins me in the studio to discuss this further. It's good to have you, and a good morning.
Thanks for having me.
All right, now let's take a look at the Minister of Finance, Budget and Planning has announced a new plan to boost the economy. Do you think this would improve the economy, and what areas should government focus on at this crucial time?
I think I'll first state that Nigerians don't lack plans. We have a lot of plans, policies, and where the major issue is in terms of implementation. So looking at, based on our pronouncement yesterday, or in terms of our speech yesterday, she's trying to focus on she has highlighted 3 broad areas that she would also focus on in terms of accelerating economic and fiscal reforms, also looking at significant investment in infrastructure, as well as human capital development. Yes, these are critical areas that we know that we need something significant to be done within that space to jumpstart the economy. So in terms of accelerating, there are several reforms you look at in terms of, if we are looking at the economic reforms, what are those critical sectors? We know that government is currently challenged in terms of revenue. So what they need to do is more partnership with the private investors. What are the policies that they can come up with that will give them comfort, that will be able to attract foreign direct investment, which currently at a very all-time low of about $2.2 billion. So if we are able to come up with those policies that will provide confidence, we would be able to attract both foreign direct investment as well as even for domestic guys too. They are not also investing. So there are some of those sectors. If we highlight, looking at the oil and gas sector, it needs to be deregulated to attract more investment. The power sector, we need to have a cost-reflective tariff to also attract investment into those areas. So when you look at these 2 sectors that I've highlighted, they are very strategic. That for us to be able to attract investment into those sectors, we need to be very deliberate. Yes, the decisions may be very unpopular, but we just need to take those drastic measures for us to be able to grow at a growth rate that we anticipate.
Very good. It's pretty interesting you talked about the FDI, especially at this crucial stage. And I just want a one-off question on this current NESG 25th edition. I just want your thoughts on that. We've heard the Namibian High Commissioner talk about trying to improve relations in terms of trade with Nigeria. But overall, what are your thoughts on the NEG, being a think tank? Is it just another talk shop? People have said, how impactful has the summit actually been in improving Nigeria's economy and giving advice to the government so far?
Yes, I think luckily in the past I've been privileged to be part of the technical committees.
That's good.
Yeah, so I understand what they do, and in terms of they are also beyond even this conference, 2-day conference. They try to put together in terms of the takeaways from the conversation, and there's also a committee that engages the government in terms of implementation. But their own role is to provide advice and support. Also, with their influence, they may get 1 or 2 things to scale through. But there's there's a limit to what they can do. It's for them to be able to just provide perspective to the government. They had the privilege of the president being part of the program yesterday. So that's another opportunity to directly pass your message to the president. So if the president have been reading some of those things on of the newspapers, but that's an opportunity, is listening. So depending on the perspective of how to pass some of those messages that we're trying to see how we can jumpstart this economy. You had issues around why it's very urgent, that there's really no more time for us now. We need to take very deliberate action in terms of growing the economy, taking deliberate action in terms of reducing poverty rates. Those are some of those discussions that were discussed at the NESG yesterday.
All right, very good. I would like you to hold your thoughts on those issues as we have to go back live to the 25th edition of the Nigerian Economic Summit currently taking place in Abuja. Let's watch.
And agreeing on 10 things, such that whether we have a PDP government or an APC government, those 10 things that have been agreed on can continue, within the life cycle of the government. So whatever party you are, we know that as a nation, we have agreed to become the most industrialized black nation in the world. When you look at every thriving economy today, every thriving nation today, you find that at the heart of it, there's a successful private sector. So in China today, there are policies that are geared towards ensuring that the private sector can thrive, such that even when they have external competition coming into the country, the local industries are able to hold their own. So look at South Korea today, or Japan with the Chibo system in South Korea, or the Karetsu and the Zaibetsu systems that happened like in Japan. We need to ensure that our leaders, our policymakers can support
activities there at the 25th NESG taking place in Abuja. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us. Good to have you back on Global Business Report, and we've still got Ayodeji Eboh of AFRINVEST to discuss Nigeria's economy and many others. Earlier on, we were talking about the 25th NESG, but let's take a look at the trend in the CBN's advances to the federal government, which is described as worrying. Can you shed more light on this? So what's responsible for this scenario?
Yes, I think, first of all, looking at it perspective, if you roll back from 2014, when you look at in terms of the advances, CBN advances to the federal government was around 200 billion.
Okay.
And that has increased sporadically to currently around 7.2 trillion. That is alarming. Just in 2019 alone, about 1.9 trillion has been advanced. We know, yes, the major reason for this is revenue challenges. If you look at the 2019 budget performance, you look at for half-year revenue compared to a budget of, or a target of about 3.5 billion for half-year, we were only able to achieve about 2 trillion. 3.5 trillion rather, they were only able to achieve about 2.2 trillion. You can see that that's about 1.5 trillion gap. And government can raise all these funds in domestic market. We've not seen, government has not raised Eurobond this year. And if the CBN have just been supporting, when you check the balance sheet of the CBN, there's what you call the ways and means.
Okay.
So that's the support from they've been getting from the CBN, which is worrisome because it's unsustainable if you do a critical analysis of CBN's balance sheet, because you are giving at zero cost. And when you also look at the implication, CBN has been mopping up funds at a cost.
Okay. So
when you look at in terms of average yield on that cost, that's about 14–15%. So you are lending to the government or advancing to the government at zero interest rate, and you have to come back to mop up those funds at very significant cost. So it's really going to create significant hole in the CBN's balance sheet.
A pretty interesting scenario there, and it's also heartwarming that at least groups like yours are also monitoring the activities of the CBN regarding the economy. Now, is this practice against the law, and what are the likely implications for the economy?
Yes, interesting. If you look at the CBN Act of 2007, yes, there's a provision that allows the CBN to advance funds to the federal government, but it was capped at 5% of the last revenue. You can see it makes a lot of logical sense. So of your last actual revenue, don't advance, CBN shouldn't advance more than 5% of that, which we look at it based on in 2019 figures. You look at based on 2018 actual performance should be less than 200 billion. But the CBN has advanced about 1.9 trillion so far in 2019, which is against that act. And also, there's also that provision that the government must pay back that loan at the end of the year. But with what we discussed earlier, it's been increasing sporadically. So government have not been paying back. And if this trend continues, only God knows what can happen. It's really not healthy, even for the CBN, as well as even the economy, because of inflationary pressures that may also cause.
All right, Ayodeji Eboh, I'd like to thank you very much for your thoughts on those issues. Good to have you.